Hi, this is Joe Dragon, and this is Dragon Law Group's video blog. This video will give you a step-by-step instruction on how to form a business entity in the state of Nevada, and we'll be using a limited liability company, LLC, as an example. Okay, a couple notes. This is not legal advice. This is just for educational purposes. Please seek the counsel of an attorney for your specific situation. And I will note that when you're forming a business entity, some of the documents you probably want the assistance of an attorney to actually draft and execute them, especially if the business has two or more owners or is kind of complicated with various employees or servicing contracts, something of that nature. But this video will show you how to do it online. So let's get started. First thing we're going to want to do is we're going to open up our web browser. Okay, and then we're going to go, you can do this through the Nevada Secretary of State's office. So just type in Nevada Secretary of State. It should be the first thing that pops up. So we'll click on this. You can also do it through a website called Silver Flume, which this website will actually redirect you to. But I recommend using everything the Secretary of State because it has more information on it. There's also some good information on this on the Secretary of State's website. It has licensing information, just general small business resources that you probably find useful. So I take a look at this website and use it for what it has. Okay, so to start or to file an LLC, you're going to click on Business, and you're going to go to drop-down menu and start a business. Most of this is kind of self-explanatory. It takes you through the steps, but if you don't know what you're looking at, some of the questions may be confusing, or it's a good idea to know exactly what it is you're doing. So that's what this video provides as well. All right, so once we are in this page, it's going to give you a couple options. And some other information that you probably need to do if you're starting out for the first time or you're starting a new business. You're obviously going to need to get a business license, this drop down. And if you're a foreign entity wanting to do business in Nevada, you would click on this drop down. So just different options for the type of stuff that you're looking to do. Okay, so we want to start a business, so we'll click on this drop down menu. And then it's going to give you a list of all the types of entities available in the state of Nevada. If you want to know more information about any of these types of entities, dragonlawgroup.com has blogs on pretty much all of these, and we'll eventually have every single one. So there'll be information about what the differences are, why you may consider one entity versus the other, and so forth. Also, on the right here, on this drop-down menu, it's linking you to the Nevada statutes and laws which govern the different types of entities. So it's a good resource if you wanted to know, maybe what some requirements are, how the business will actually operate legally speaking. And so you can click on any one of these links. So if we go to limited liability company, that's NRS Nevada Revised Statute Chapter 86, and it will take you to that web page, and you can see these are all the laws applicable to a LLC in the state of Nevada. It's kind of dry. Probably get confused on some of these provisions if you're not familiar with them, or you can just ask me, and I'd be more than willing to help you out, figure out what your specific question is. Okay. So let's get out of there, and we're going to do a domestic limited liability company. So we click on this button, click next, and it redirects you to this screen. So just background information. What this actually is doing is basically the state has created a template tutorial on all the documents you would need to file with them in one place on the website. You technically do not have to use this. You could just do everything yourself or with an attorney and file it that way, but this is pretty user friendly, so I recommend this. All right, so the first thing it's asking us to do is we need the articles of organization, which pursuant to the laws that we just looked at is required to be filed. So just click start, and it's going to guide you through this. All right, so earlier I mentioned that Silver Flume was the actual website where you file things, so it's actually redirecting you to, or already did, the Silver Flume website. To use Silver Flume, you're going to need to make an account. You do this by clicking register. It's just going to ask you your basic information, similar to if you were setting up an email account or something like that. So I will log into my account. Give you a demonstration. So just sign in, and it redirects you to this online tutorial. This kind of gives you a basic, breakdown the steps that you need to do before you can file your documents with the state. Don't get confused with the fee here, $75. That's just the filing fee. To actually create an LLC, it's going to be about $400 plus the filing fee, and you have to do that annually. So every year, that's what it costs to maintain an LLC in the state of Nevada. Okay. So this first area is asking, what do you want the name to be? And it's kind of good to know that deciding what your business name is obviously important from a marketing standpoint. You can only use names that are not obviously already in use. So this feature allows you to search for potential names, and if it's available, you can use it. If you're doing an LLC, you have to use an abbreviation after your name, letting the state know and everybody else that you do business with that your entity is an LLC. So you have to use an abbreviation at the end of the name. You see this all the time. It might be just LLC or limited liability company, but I'll show you what it does if you don't do that. It'll give you the options. So let's do Golden Knights Fan Zone. Other than the abbreviation, you can name your business whatever you want it to be. So notice I left out the abbreviation, so I'll show you what happens. And it's telling us in this prompt right here what you have to include after the business name. So as I said, limited liability company, LLC, or L.C. Any one of these options, it'll let you use, but you have to use one of them. So it might be a good note in case you're thinking about how you actually want it to look and sound. Okay, so I messed up, didn't put in LLC. So now we just put in LLC, and we click search again. Okay, so it's telling us that the name Golden Knights Fan Zone LLC is available. Perfect, let's use it. Click next. Okay, so step 2 wants to know what type of LLC you are forming. And it's giving you 2 options. So if you're just doing this by yourself, you probably would not know what it's asking you. I'll briefly explain these 2 different types of alternative types of LLCs you can form in Nevada. Most likely than not, you're not going to select these. A series limited liability company right here is kind of a new entity that Nevada has approved for creation. And what it is brand new. And what it is it allows a business to protect different series of assets within one limited liability company. I've made a blog on using entities or multiple entities to protect different assets, kind of like a web of LLCs. You can own as many entities as you think that you need or is reasonable for your business, and by doing that, you are potentially protecting different assets of your business. You may have one LLC, for instance, maybe you manufacture, toothpaste containers, let's say, and you're also at the same time reinvesting a lot of that money into real estate, just hypothetically to get return on investment in the real estate market. You'd probably want two different entities for each, because the two different types of business. And you don't want, if the toothpaste manufacturing business, for instance, somehow create a liability, you don't want potential creditors or injured people to try to take the assets from a real estate business. So in that situation, you'd want two separate ones. What the limited liability does, and that's not the best example, but serious liability is it kind of creates an umbrella to do that within one entity. And it's pretty good, novel idea. I think these will take off, but right now it's still kind of in their infancy stages. A lot of financial institutions are kind of scared to do business with them because I'm not sure how the courts will end up treating them. So more likely than not, at this point, you do not want a series, but that just gives you some background information on what that is. The other type is a restricted limited liability company. You don't want that one. It has to do with long-term investments for tax benefit purposes, but you can't take any income out of the company for 10 years. So if you're doing regular business, this is more like an investment type of entity that you would use restricted limited liability. So we're not going to check any of these, and we're going to click next. All right, so this is asking you, this phase 3 is registered agent information. I have done a blog on what a registered agent is. You can click the link up here to access that blog, and it'll kind of go over what they are and what they do for you if you don't already know. But in a nutshell, a registered agent is basically the person or entity that's receiving information on behalf of the newly formed LLC. The state is very concerned on this aspect because they need somebody to know who to sue, basically, if the LLC, somebody's trying to sue the LLC you're forming, you've got to have a point of contact to intake summons documents on behalf of the LLC. So you have to have a registered agent, and that can be anybody or any entity. There's a lot of commercial registered agents that you can use to do that task for you, and in fact, Dragon Law Group provides the services as well. But for this video, we're just going to make up somebody. We'll call him Bob. Let's see, last name we can use. We'll call him Sniggle. S-M-I-G-G-L-E. Okay. And we'll search this option is letting you know if this registration is already being used. I previously made this fictitious agent, so it pops up on the search, and we can select him and select registered agent. And then once you do that, this is the information I put in earlier. Just it's all fictitious, but just kind of explain the fields that you have to fill in, and we'll click next. All right, so we have the registered agent information. We selected the LLC, and now it wants to know, as required by law, all right, who are the officers of this LLC? By law, that could be one, or that could be, as many as you think is appropriate to handle the business that you're starting or operating with. So it's just going to ask for their information. Now, the first box here, again, this is something you probably wouldn't know by yourself. You're just looking at this for the first time, but it's asking you, okay, you're making an LLC. Do you want this managing? You want to be is this officer a managing member or a manager? What is the difference between these two right here? Well, if you were to form an LLC with, let's say, 3 of your friends, and you didn't specify what option you're making here, it's going to default to what's called the member managed LLC. And what that means is the 4 members in this, well, I guess it said, 3. So you and 3 of your friends, 4 members, are going to be the members and going to run the LLC, manage the LLC. And if you left everything else blank, like if you didn't file an operating agreement or a you put it in the articles of organization, that would mean that the 4 managers have control based on the LLC, based on what their capital contributions are, what they invested. Let's say you fund $100,000 to get the LLC off the ground, and each 4 members can equally contribute $25,000. So each member would then have a 1/4 interest, managing interest in the LLC, and equal vote or weight on what the decisions of the LLC will be. Now, if you notice in my little scenario that I just gave, it kind of creates a problem because let's say you're split 50-50 on a business decision. Maybe it's where you want to build the actual office or laboratory of what your business is trying to accomplish. And you're at a gridlock 50-50 between 4 partners. Well, what's the resolution? It can become complicated at that point because the articles or the articles of organization don't specify what to do in that type of situation. This is when an attorney can really help, because an attorney's job is to foresee, these types of issues before they happen. A lot of times when you start in a business, everybody's getting along great, and you don't really aware of the type of issues that may come down in the future, and that's the attorney's job. If you read some of the other articles and posts and blogs on Dragon Law Group, we kind of talk about the difference between, legal armor, which is basically protecting a business from potential lawsuits or things that could cripple it legally. And we also use the metaphor legal stallion, which tries to capture the idea that not only can proper legal transactions protect a business, but it can also help the business run more efficiently and better achieve its goals. But going back to that hypothetical about the 4 partners, not only by creating the articles of organization in a manner which allows it to avoid gridlock if it happens, it also makes it more clear to the 4 partners what each one of their roles are. So conflict never starts to begin with, and everything runs efficiently. So that's when an attorney can really help these types of situations when you're actually forming a business. All right. Now, the other option is a managing member. So you also have the option in LLC, instead of having the actual owners or members run it, you can say, okay, the members aren't going to run it necessarily. Instead, managers or a managing member, those ones are the people who will make the business decisions. When would you want to do that? It just kind of depends on what kind of business you're doing. Perhaps you have, one of the owners of the LLC is already very successful, and he or she's starting the LLC with partners more as a passive type of investment. Basically, hey, you guys run it. I'm going to invest in it, and then get a return on money later, but I don't want to actually manage the business. I'm just going to let you guys do that. So that would just be a member, not a managing member. And in that type of scenario, you probably want a managing member option. But it's just how the actual business is actually run. Think of if you buy stock in a publicly traded company. Stockholders don't actually make any of the decisions on how that company is run. They kind of do indirectly by electing the board of directors, but you're doing a passive investment, and that's kind of what this is getting at the difference. But for this example, I'm just going to click on, we'll do member managed. So that means that each one of the members will run the business unless you amend that in the articles of organization. All right, so this is just asking you whether or not the manager or managing member is an individual or entity. Remember, other entities like LLCs or C corporations or small corps, which is actually a slang term. Small corporations don't actually exist in the state of Nevada, but there are entities that basically are small corporation. But They can also own a business. So Walmart, for instance, can own Amazon or a portion thereof if they bought a whole bunch of stock in Amazon. Doesn't matter. You don't actually have to be a real person to own the LLC. All right. So let's do individual. So let's just say Becky Johnson is one of the managing members of this LLC. And we're going to make an address 5622 Vista Point Drive, United States, Las Vegas. And anything else? Zip code. All right, so you're just letting the state know who actually owns this, who's actually managing the LLC, and you have to update this if you introduce more members and managers to your LLC. So let's say you start out, it's just you or you and a friend, and then 6 months down the road, you get another potential partner. He joins. You need to update the information with the state, letting them know, hey, we have a new officer. Because remember, the state wants to know who actually owns these entities and what's actually going on to an extent. All right. What I missed to put in here. Oh, I forgot to do this part. What do we say we do member managed? All right, let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, so you just have to click add officer, and then it puts this information, puts it in this table below. Okay, so let's click next. All right, so phase 6, it's just asking you basically swearing under perjury that the information in here is true. And you just, I'm not actually filing this, just demonstration. So, Smiggle, save. And this is asking whoever your registered agent is asking them to basically declare that yes, I'm going to act as a registered agent for this entity. And that's what this is prompting. Are you authorized to sign for the registered agent? So just make sure you are, or have the registered agent do this. All right, next. All right, so this this is an elective field, field 6 here, supporting documentation. It's basically asking, do you want to put any additional information in your articles or organization? Now, if you remember from the hypothetical I was talking about earlier, we spoke, well, what if you had a passive investor who doesn't want to manage, or what if you have gridlock, or what if, that type of issue you foresee potentially happening? You would write a document, have everybody sign, all the owners or managers, and then you would upload it to this field. So it basically looks like similar to a contract or something like that. This is again an area where an attorney, the assistant attorney is highly recommended. You can find examples online. Look for template articles and organization for LLC, or even bylaws. You can upload this. Now, what's the difference between the articles of organization and the bylaws? The first one, the articles of organization, is something that has to be filed with the state. It's on record, it's on file. And if you were to get into a legal dispute, the state has a copy of that. The bylaws are an internal document, okay? Think of them as an internal contract. You're not showing these documents to state officials by filing with it. It's something you keep privately amongst the members. So if you add more private information, the bylaws are where that should go, since you don't actually upload it. So for this field, upload articles of organization, don't upload bylaws or internal documents, because then that will become a public record. One more note. Oh, you can also have more leeway with the bylaws. There are certain things that have to be in the articles of organization, but since the bylaw is an internal document, you have more room to change and basically however you want the business to actually run, you can put in the bylaws, if that makes sense. All right. So we don't have, for this example, we're not uploading anything, so I'm just going to click next. All right. So at this point, it has the basic kind of information, the date you're filing it, what type of entity you've chosen, and click next. Oh, I'm sorry. You have to click start filing first, and it redirects you. So at this point of the video, I can't go any further unless I would actually file the LLC. But the last two steps, basically all it's going to ask you to do is review the information to make sure it's correct. You're going to submit payment. You're going to click send, and then it will file with Nevada Secretary of State. They should let you know if there's any issues, but as long as you follow this process, there shouldn't be. And then once you get a confirmation from them, you will have your LLC and ready to go. Now, let's finish up notes on this. If you're going to operate under a certain entity, it's probably the first thing you're going to want to do. And the reason for that is because the whole idea of the entity is to protect you from potential liability to creditors and from your partner's actions or employees' actions that may cause the business to be liable, probably negligently, to a third party. If you do not have an entity in place before you begin business, before you start making deals with other outside third-party businesses and similar types of transactions, then the business did not make those deals, and you yourself, whoever appeared on the contract, is the one that is liable to those third-party creditors, if you will. So if you started to make those types of transactions before the entity exists, it's a contract between you personally and the third party. After you form the LLC, or what type of entity you chose, it doesn't automatically replace you as the liable partner. In order to change that, you'd have to go back to whoever you made the, let's say you took out a loan and you wanted to be in your business name, but the business didn't actually exist on the date that you made the loan. Well, then it's between you and the bank only. And the only way to get out of that is you'd have to have the bank actually agree to release you from that contract. It's called ratification, and then put the business in its place, which nothing compels them to do so. So it's very important to form the entity before you actually start doing business. If you don't, you could be in some trouble later on. So that's very important. Okay, well, I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to give us an email. You can email me directly. My email is jdragon@thedragonlawgroup.com. And of course, you have the website, our website, for additional information. If there's anything particular you want to know, feel free to give me an email, and I'll respond to you directly. And if it's okay, post a blog about your specific issue, only if that's okay. All right. Well, thank you very much.